70% of India is going to soon be under 35 years of age. There's absolutely no denying that there's an urgent and crucial need to reboot India's skill development policy. There seems to be political will on it. Private players are stepping up to the challenge as well. So what exactly is holding us back? That's what we are looking at today. A very special panel with me as we go through whether the glass is half full, half empty, both. And like I said, the road ahead on skilling and empowering young India, preparing them to be important players on the global stage. With me now, Miriam Carter, Director at OP Jindal Community Colleges, Sandeep Bhatia, Deputy General Manager, Footwear Design and Development Institute, also Atul Bhatnagar, Chief Operating Officer, National Skill Development Corporation of India, and Arvind Singhatia, VP Corporate Affairs, Ola. Thanks all so much for joining us. Ma'am, if I could start by asking you, in your experiences, we're always told that the problem, one of the key problems holding, greater adoption of vocational training in India is the fact that the young really don't think it's cool enough. It's not aspirational yet. How can we change that? And is that a fair assessment?
For anything to be aspirational, one has to have information and know what is available, what the career pathways are for whatever is available, and when we're talking about skilling and vocational education. And so it's just unfair to say, well, the young people think it's not cool. They don't know.
Right.
And so we as skills development agencies and providers have an obligation to educate not only the youth, but their parents, but the villages and the villages, and all in the country. What vocational skills are all about. What are the training requirements?
How can I leverage what I'm learning here to sort of improve my condition, to sort of get to where I want to be?
Exactly.
Mr. Bhatia, you were telling me earlier that actually you were seeing a bit of a shift. You are now seeing people who are perhaps more open to this.
Yeah. Here I'd like to quote that maybe the movies like Three Idiots has opened up new doors for everyone, because it is quite understanding now that everybody can't be a engineer or a doctor. So the focus is changing. As I come from an institute where we are offering professional programs in the field of footwear, retail and leather goods. I understand down the line, 10 years back maybe, it was very difficult to really aspire students for footwear technology.
Right.
But right now, the candidates are coming to us because they understand that there is a growth in this particular sector. When there was a time of recession, even the people who were working in IT on a bigger level, on a maybe higher scales, they were also feeling that they are left out. But in the sectors which are very on a growth, really on a growth like lifestyle sector in India, so the students are also aspiring for it.
Right.
So they wish to join the programs into these particular areas.
Right. You know, Arvind, for the longest time, that has been the problem, that what is the value? When Miriam talks about we don't have information, people don't know how they can leverage this more. They don't know what the value attached is, and there's also a societal perception that this is not what we want to do. Someone like yourself, empowering people to sort of take charge of their lives, training them to drive cabs, to learn to drive cars, and women also. Is there a real change on the ground? And what is the demand supply looking like at the moment?
So you raise a very valid point here that this social perception of a driver. So before we came in picture, we are a very young company. It's like 3.5 years when we are in this country. Before that, majority of the drivers were considered as either the bus drivers or the truck drivers or traditional city taxi drivers. Right? There was nothing like so the cabs that we run, is the technical term for them is intermediary public transport. So there were no organized way of intermediary public transport in the country before we came in picture. And then we took charge of the situation, and we've started a concept called as driver cum owner, DCO. So we have started promoting those people who are having a auto rickshaw, or they were driving earlier some other means of transportation, because they were driving which was something lesser acceptable or more of effort was involved in that. We have trained them to drive a car, skill them to behave softly with the customer, to commute inside the city, and bring them
there
on.
are a whole host of soft skills that sort of also go with the whole package as it were. Mr. Bhatnagar, the focus has always been in most cases to see that the government started it. In the last decade, we've seen corporates step up to the plate. But do you think that, is it fair for people to say that the corporates need to really be the epicenter of this entire skill movement? Because at the end of the day, it's for the corporates, so why not buy the corporates? Is that fair?
Yes, it is fair. To that extent, we have done, from NSDC's point of view, we have created a paradigm shift in the way things were going in the past, which was very education oriented, and we talked about that before, that it was more input based, classroom based, number of contact hours, degree based, and general theory, and less of practical. Whereas what the corporates and the employers, let's say the industry, wanted somebody who had specific skills, who can start delivering from literally day one or maybe day 7 and person joins an organization. So the shift that we have created is we have set up these sector skill councils for each sector, and there are now more than 33 sector skill councils on the ground. So why should a person not be employable?
Right.
May not get employed, but employable. That employability skills is what we are trying to do.
And that's an important point, because we keep looking at those dismal figures that are thrown at us, that 47% of India's graduates, for instance, are not employable for a whole host of reasons. That, that there's no real value attached, be it lack of practical knowledge, be it lack of English, so on and so forth, a whole host of reasons. Do you believe that we're also focusing, Miriam, on quality as seriously as we try and achieve this target, which many are questioning, of 500 million skilled Indians by 2022? Do you believe that quality needs to be in focus? Is it really in focus?
It is in focus. And as my colleague mentioned, the sector skill councils will drive that quality. And so at OP Jindal Community College, our focus is on the entire skilling value chain, if you will. From creating awareness to training quality-wise, involving employers and contractors and getting them placed.
If I just may ask you very quickly, what is the biggest challenge that you face? The one biggest challenge that you face?
The one biggest challenge that we face is the end result. We put people through training programs, who are skilled and certified with a Sector Skill Council certification. The challenge is having those Sector Skill Council certifications be recognized by industry, by employers, by the end users.
Mr. Bhatnagar, just comment on that quickly. It's this certification that has also been in focus, and what value do I attach to it? When I look at it, should I know instantly that, like, this person is fully certified? I do not need to sort of bank on the fact that did not attend, say, a conventional college or an institution.
Miriam, just to add to that, the certification has now been recognized. It's been put in the same league as your other certificates on NCVT or CBSE and all. So that's just coming. This is like very good news in the last 3 weeks. Creating that system awareness by which people can not only get trained and be recorded in the database, but can be also looked at by the employers and even abroad. So our system is now talking to some 20 e-recruiters. So anybody who's as an unemployed person kind of goes there. So it's like a mini portal which can supply data to a whole lot of people. And that awareness is building up with not only from the trainee, but if the person doesn't show his mettle or her mettle, then obviously you won't get a job. Now, as far as quality is concerned, we now for the first time have standards. Previously it was like training for anything and everything, really.
Just train them, basically. Just train them.
Now we're talking of job roles. Now we're talking of job roles, very specific job roles. And what does a job role require?
We need to sort of structure what we have to offer to suit a whole variety of needs and all of that.
Everybody cannot be a manager. You need people on shop floor level also in each and every area.
And which is what I think the point that you were making, Arvind, also, that we need respectability. You talked about focusing on women drivers, getting them out there, empowering them. But then again, the question on quality is back in focus. How can one really assure that, say, perhaps in your line of work?
So recently we have tied up with Automobile Skill Development Council, ASDC, and few NGOs who will do the sourcing for us, for the women drivers. So as an entrepreneur and as an corporate, I'll be able to provide them the final employment, as well as I can bring them on my platform so that they can earn a respectable earning for themselves. But for the training quality and for the for bringing and convincing the women to come on board on our platform, the role of ASDC as well as the role of NGOs who are working in that domain has become all the more very important. And as what Mr. Bhatnagar has said, assessment plays a very crucial role, because if the assessments are appropriate, obviously we'll be getting good quality drivers for our platform. Our role has become more important because then we have created our own systems of rating the drivers by the customers, and that will also filter out the people who are on our platform. So but the good part over here is now there is an option available. So
Miriam, if I could get you on that.
There are a number of different schemes, government schemes, that fund skill development and quality skill development, and that's our focus. That's our challenge also. There's another big challenge I think all of my colleagues would agree to, and that is finding quality instructors. We've got a lot of change in the skill development ecosystem, and we've got individuals who have been trained in the old way, the input method, and not the output method.
So there's an unlearning that needs to be done down here. And in fact, good quality teachers and good quality teaching, of course, that's even conventional education in India sort of has faced grappling with the same changes. Let's slip into a quick break. Back with lots more as we take a look at skilling India and the road ahead. Back right after this. Welcome back. We're looking at skilling India and what we need to do to prepare India for the future. When we look at the stats, they're not always very heartening. When we look at, just over 5.5 million Indians enrolled in vocational training as compared to over 11 million in the US, 90 million in China, the one country that we're always trying to match up to or seeing, whose graph stands where. But that's the figure. So there's 90 million in China, and there's just over 5 million in India. And we're looking at a world where the need for manpower is going to rise. And it's not just India. We're looking at preparing our youngsters to play a role on the international stage to fill in that deficit. You were making an important point earlier, Mr. Bhatia, that if you are in the reasonably big towns or the more urban pockets of India, then access to these skills are perhaps easier. It's the mufassal towns. It's the India that for very often, unfortunately, is even off the map, that the challenge is perhaps the greatest. I'll get you in and then Miriam.
Yeah, in fact, what we observed, we have campuses in the places like Chhindwara in MP. So we found out that there are not much of options available for students to go for these vocational kind of training. So, and it's very difficult because there the people doesn't have that much of economic condition where they can join the programs and afford the fee as well as the hostel expenses. So the need right now is to reach to those people, set up maybe a small operating center for them there itself near their locality, and they'll be trained there itself because they don't wish to relocate, because right now also they are helping their parents.
So we need to go to them, is what you're saying. Don't expect them to sort of then move on. Mr. Bhatnagar, is that a very fair point to say that?
Yes, absolutely.
You can't ignore those large numbers there.
Definitely, and we have done a skill gap study for the entire India map by the district, and we have matched it off with the youth aspiration for the district. So wherever the skill gap is high and the youth aspiration is high, you've got a proposition there. So that is there, and that information needs to reach out to whether it's potential trainees or employers or training providers, whichever way. And that can be seen on our website, nsdcindia.org.
Right. Miriam, on the ground in these small towns of India, you are sort of actively engaged in these kind of communities on the ground. What's the scenario like? What are the opportunities like is actually what I want to know.
The opportunities are many if you think outside the box. So as a community college, we take the college to the community and we set up training programs, for example, in rural villages for women in construction. If you spent any time in rural India, you will see that there are a number of women working in construction, often in the least paid, most vulnerable labor positions. And so what we decided is, let's skill them up so that they can vie for contracts, so that they can make a decent living wage. So in order to do that and to break sociocultural barriers, we've taken training to the villages, and that has been very successful in a program that we call Aprajita.
Right. I think there's something common to both what you're doing and what Arvind's doing is also that, the challenges that you face is just not beyond skilling, but you're also, there's a mindset change also underway. So you're sort of, in a sense, to my mind, working on two parallel tracks and telling them it's okay. What you're doing has respectability, it's fine. Seize the bull by the horns, take the challenge up, and you will be fine. We will prepare you, we will equip you.
The most important part here is we have now took up a challenge to train and bring 50,000 women drivers on our platform, and train them and give them an option on our platform. The interesting part about Ola is, you will get a software which helps you to get bookings, and it's a flexibility in your own way. That means the moment you want to drive, you can on your device and you can come on our platform, and the moment you wanted to go home, you just switch it off your device and you can go home. There is no as the traditional way of driving where you have to drive for hours continuously and you have to work for some stipulated time. In our platform there is a lot of flexibility. Technology helps a lot, and absolutely it suits a woman because she's taking care of family also, and for a woman flexibility is the most important part. She has to reach home by 5 p.m. in home before her husband comes in or kids come from school. So this platform helps both ways. First, giving them a flexibility to work as per their schedule, and second is give them a respectable earning from this.
I'm totally running out of time, but last words from the panel. Mr. Bhatia, 500 million skilled Indians by 2022, realistic or too ambitious?
It is quite achievable because the population which is there, but the point is here we need to have a lot of focus on public and private partnership, as well as the result which we were discussing, our colleagues. It should be visible, like it should be in the terms, in the quantitative terms, in terms of placements for the students who are coming in, because that will lead to the success stories, and definitely there will be more
like good numbers really to boost the story. Absolutely, Mr. Bhatnagar.
Very achievable, and not because I'm part of Skill Development Corporation itself, but the fact is the Prime Minister is talking about it. It's amongst his top 3 priorities. A new ministry has been formed for the first time ever.
Skills and entrepreneurship.
Honorable Mr. Rajiv Prasad Rudi, he's taking care of this, and he's a very dynamic man. Third, the corporates are now seeing the value coming out from skill development. The certificates now got recognition. All this has happened in the last 9 months. So there's a lot of stuff that's happened which says we are moving in the right direction.
Arvind?
So I think it's the most achievable goal here, because now we have a Prime Minister who is marketing it at his top pitch, and it is prime agenda. So when we have the top men marketing for something, I think the goal can never remain unachieved. I mean, that is something which is...
We have less than a decade to get there, Miriam.
We will get there, absolutely. There is political will, there's social will, there's commitment and integration between all of the key players, from those who train to those who hire. And I think that with that concerted effort and the funding and resources and the focus on quality with a result, and the result being either employment or job creation, that we can get there. We also have international partners, and those are critical players in this whole formula. So yes, I think the policy framework is in front of us to assure quality, to assure the development of proper instructors, to ensure placement, and not Skill India, really Skill India, and with a purpose.
Look at the larger picture, really. Look at the larger picture. Look at everything. Look at the end result. Look at the numbers. Look at how tangible the results are really going to be. That's a really optimistic note to end on. We have less than a decade to hit that magical number of 500 million. Will we get there? Well, like the panel has been saying, a concerted effort that needs to be made, but perhaps we may at least be on the right path. Last word on this not been spoken. We'll be back with so much more. Thanks all so much for taking our time to speak to us today. It's a wrap then. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.